All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about this series. Genji versus G2. I think, first and foremost, we got to talk about G2. I think they came out swinging. Genji looked kind of cold in the first opening map. I think Genji, especially this game, I think the biggest mistake to highlight and where, G2 found their bigger opportunity was in the preparation for Drake 2. Looking at all of the details of Drake 2, I think it's very, very clear that Genji have no business fighting. You take a look at this, right? This is a situation where Azir has no ultimate, no Nash's Tooth, and here Duro is also relatively low HP. G2 is already grouped, and the Maokai saplings are doing a lot of damage, and they are face shaking into this space. Azir can't participate, they should just accept that it got one wave advantage. Broken Blade already fresh in base too as well, ready to TP. Renekton still needs to base. So everything is pointing to the fact that Genji shouldn't fight. This is something that I referenced in my preparation and the breakdown of the teams leading into MSI. Keep in mind, guys, I'm recording this 5 a.m. I'm streaming still. This is post G2 series. So if I say something that doesn't make sense, it's probably due to the lack of sleep and my eye being affected. But the series was fun. Let's do the breakdowns. I want to bring back the breakdowns. I don't want the time and the time zone to stop me from doing them. So screw you, time zones. All right. So this angle, of course, Caps found a very, very beautiful one. I think the main thing is you can look at the draft and say Genji got outdrafted, which is very, very true. But many times I think Genji got outdrafted in the LCK and also still won. Genji, it wasn't known for their drafting unless it was like game 4-5 pocket picks that, or a game 3 pocket picks that Canyon and Chovy like pulled out. But most of the time it just came down to them just being individually better, like we saw later on in the series. I do think that G2 had a very good draft, but I think the main thing is that BB held his own here, and I do think that Caps did a very good job in the lane phase. Azir as a champion has been nerfed a lot, and picking Braum here to invite the Rakan into this composition is not super, super good. I don't like it so much, and I think the draft is kind of unimpressive. Zinza-Braum interaction into Jax isn't the greatest. Same you can say into Yone, Maokai Rakan as a pairing. I think this is probably the strongest utility duo in the whole game. Someone redeemed Battlecruiser operational points, so Battlecruiser operational. Battlecruiser operational. I guess I need to add the accent. G2 won the remainder of the game. I think they just, stood around objectives. I think something to highlight about this draft, if you want to talk about the draft conversation, is G2 got away with playing sides pretty easy because of Jax and Yone, because they have good interaction into Xin Zhao, which means they can farm without help from jungle. And then jungle can always appear and just throw E into bushes, which makes retaking and holding very, very easy. The Maokai cheat code is super, super important. I think G2 played better, and I think being warm definitely made a difference in this one. Genji got punched in the mouth, and then they had to wake the fuck up. Yet in this game, I think it was kind of the opposite in game 2, because I do think that G2's draft is also insanely good here. You have the Senna Tam to deny the Vi combo into good matchup because Alistar is showing. You have Aurora playing into Galio Tam in a composition where it's going to be hard to pull off Aurora. I think that this is a draft that I would favor G2 because Riot has a very easy time on side because you can itemize MR, and I think that Galio is a good denial. Looking at the most important detail of this game, in my opinion, was that grub fight. Because leading into those grubs here in this moment, after Skimon had the first blood, if you can see it, look at the condition of the game here. Hansama is 6, Labrov is 6. They're currently catching a wave. They don't catch that wave aggressively. But Tahm Kench right now is level 6, Senna is level 6, Rai is level 7 with the hover, and G2 don't play in a way where they get information. They don't spot, they don't look. They don't look, they don't get information, they're not face checking aggressively. Here Aurora got cut off, chunked, and Galio is the first one to roam. They need to actually take a fight here. But in the end, Genji got all of the time in the world to set this play up, and then eventually they got the grubs, they snapped on Skewmond. Aurora's TPing back, she got to base, and she's coming in fresh. G2 is just sitting here in the cuck chair. They are not committing or snapping at all. Duro here is level 5 against the 6 of Labrov. This should be a good situation for G2, but they just hesitated too much. And I think this is something that they called out in the game, because for the rest of this game, G2 were pulling the trigger like psychopaths. They are taking every fight possible, and I like that from G2. They had way more aggression in this series than they had the entire year long. Not gonna lie, man. Like, they had more aggression in this series than I've ever seen, which was super, super good. Game 3, pretty much, I think G2's draft was quite bad. First pick Victor, following that with Ezreal. I think these two champions, and Gnar too, they all have the same problem. The window where they are strong is so damn narrow. Gnar follows off really, really hard. Ezreal's only good on 2 core, and if he's ahead of the game. Victor as well doesn't really pair in the timings of Ezreal and Gnar. I really, really hated this draft. The Jarvan blind into the Lee Sin lock-in, I didn't like either. They banned Akali and the Silas instead of the Victor, which is understandable. The Keen Santa here is also just free real estate, you know. He's pulling up Kesanta against way better Naz than BB. In this game, I think the main thing to highlight was just the beautiful highlight reel of Canyon, because this guy was an absolute demon. It was a miracle that G2 didn't fold earlier, because Canyon was invading level 1 chickens into invade with vision on Golem. A very, very classic play. Let me just show you some of the shit that Mr. Canyon pulled off. That was vicious and delicious. Let me just fast forward to the play like this as well. Just like Gnar breaking his neck. Something to highlight as well. Genji was way better in the swap game. The swap game that happens on Cannon waves, maybe the 4:30 wave, the 6-minute wave, in terms of how they managed, like how they pushed the waves and then bounced them and then froze them with their bot lane and shoved BB out. Keen was always farming more, farming better, always doing a fantastic job of just decimating the opposition. Like he always got massive CS leads off of it. I want to just bring up the highlight reel that he did on top side. Let me just pull that up. I think it was here. It was here, I think. Oh, here it was. Here was the beginning one. So Canyon here does some magic. You look at this. He finds the kick and the Q, and then he takes the fucking Herald, so he doesn't do the Q damage, and then he drives after Hans Sama and just breaks his ankles.
Or misstepping, but it doesn't matter because either way he got the kill.
Look at that,
and
bro.
He's just riding off into the night.
Draco's enjoying himself. And let me show you guys the next highlight reel. The next highlight reel on top side
like
here.
That was a nasty play.
Look at Canyon just having fun on Lee.
Canyon finds another alongside Chovy, and it's
Look at him go. Look at this. He's holding Q for long as possible to have another Q on hit.
Completely fearless.
Goes for it again. Regains the energy. Look at that kick. Beautifully aimed. Gets another Q. Clean through the wave, through the Jarvan. Canyon flashes the Jarvan ult damage. Look at him go, bro. Look at him go.
Keeps coming. Ruler in the
The Ezreal wolf gets him in the end, but who cares if the enemy team is getting cleaned out.
Kill and Skewmont will die in the meantime.
It's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And then the final game, I want to give props to Labrov here for actually pulling the trigger. I think this to me was a series where G2 developed some character, you know? I think that they've been insanely boring for such a long time, but I felt like this was a series where they actually got some character. You know, this is a team that didn't pull the trigger, didn't fight, didn't look for any angles. But let me show you this game number 4 here. You know, there's a reason why Hilly and Mickey were the only 2 supports out of Europe that had like immense international success. You know, immense international success. Yamato, but what about Yellowstone 2015? Yeah, like he was all right. Yeah, he was good. And Mithy was solid too. But shut up. Stop arguing with me. This game was very tragic because Hansama, Flash and Ghost, he went into top side. He swapped early on shoes. I think it put BB in a hard spot. I wanted to highlight this because a lot of people flamed Broken Blade for this TP. But the thing is, if you swap this early and the timer where your top laner needs to TP into bot to catch a wave, because if he doesn't TP here to catch his wave, his game is completely over. It's lost. It explodes instantly. This is a team decision from bot lane being in a bad wave spot to go into top side to find the swing play onto Keen when Broken Blade is in a fine lane condition. This is a team decision that Broken Blade gets screwed on completely because you don't swap on fucking wave 2 ever. you have 300 gold and you swap for boots. It just doesn't happen. The last time we saw a team do this, let me show you how bad it was. Last time we saw a team do this was Billy versus T1 Worlds 2024, I believe, game number 5. Take a look at this. Game number 5, there was a swap here from Kaiser. This was the moment where Zeus stole waves top because they crashed the wrong wave on top. Elk bases, 11 CS, goes into bottom side. Zaya, Poppy, they're like, okay, they're here now. Kaiser's not even catching the wave. And then look what Zaya and Poppy do. This is the gank timer of Owner who crossed and can now gank into bot. They're going to fake recall in the bush and then hide. Because Kaiser's underleveled and they know they don't need to base or do anything. Because in the end, the item advantage is non-existent because Kaiser based on 11 CS. So here, Poppy and Zaya are just trapping in the bush, syncing with the Owner timer. Elk thinks they're basing because that's a natural progression, and then they get completely clippity-clapped. Obviously, it's a little bit different, but at the same time, somewhat similar because the timing of your play is completely in sync with jungle. And here, when BB TPs into bot, he just loses his life, loses his game, and everything else. The reason I wanted to give praise for G2 in regards to this game is because shit like this. They are late to this, Drake, and I swear to God, the whole year they would never ever contest this. Never. Look at them go here. Look at Labrov. Tell me this isn't the most Mickey X, Hillisang-esque play you've ever seen from Labrov. He's pulling the trigger because the thing is, the windows you get against better teams are absolutely non-existent. They don't exist. They don't exist at all, I tell you. They don't exist. So you need to be snappy, you need to go, you need to be confident. Because if Genji, players like Genji smell fear, they're going to fucking destroy you. They will posture on you. They will spit on you. They will harass you and push you out and not let you play the game. Because this entire game, Genji is playing to the limit, to the limit, to the limit. I don't know how many times Genji got away with 1 HP. If you're not willing to pull the trigger, they will poke you out, kill you, and suffocate you. I made the analogy during the stream that it's kind of like an MMA fighter just leg kicking you, leg kicking you, leg kicking you, jabbing, 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 eye poking because John Jones in his dumbass gloves, and he's just mocking you, you know? And then you lose the fight on points, and then you stood there, and everyone thinks you're boring. You need to go in there, you need to swing, and you need to actually feint a little bit. You need to fucking play the game, you know? You need to play the game. And it brings me back to the initial point. Genji, I think they looked a little bit rusty in the opening game. That's fine. I'm not worried about Genji. Still Genji a favorite. The weaknesses that I highlighted in my breakdown are still the same. I think their drafting is quite disrespectful. They are not doing good reads into the enemy team. They don't have a good understanding of the enemy team. And also, I think their bot lane is a little bit inconsistent. They had a good series. I think the Koki game was insane from Ruler. It was Jin as well. But in the game 1, for example, picking the Lucian Braum, that's a mistake that, you know, even in this game against G2 of a weaker bot lane, they couldn't get away with, you know. And I highlight these because they will be important in the next round when Genji play AL and the T1s and the Bilibis, because this will be a point of exploitation. But still, Genji have by far the best top side in this tournament. When we think about a complete top side, I think Canyon, Chovy, and Keen is just the best top side of all time. Only like Damwon is comparable with Canyon, Showmaker, Nuguri, like 2020. You know, that's it, you know. But G2, I think they showed the most amount of character I've seen all year. I like this from them. This was development. You know, when people talk about going to an international to get experience, this is the type of experience you're talking about. You know, I don't want to overhype it. Genji is way better than them. I'm just talking about the eye test. Because what they showed against Bilibili, they got fisted all the same, of course. But they actually played the fucking game. Bilibili got ahead, and then there was nothing. Maybe game 1, you can say they found some angles, but Bilibili gave them to them. You know? But the rest of the series was just completely folded. This is the type of experience you talk about. This is the type of experience that is going to get Skimon and Labrov hooked on the international play. This is what gets you addicted. I don't think Genji was ever at risk of losing this series. Even after game 1, I thought Genji is going to just win 3 in a row. I don't think they were ever in danger to lose the series. I don't want to overblow it. I'm just talking about G2's development. Because now, suddenly, after a series like this, if Flyquest lose to AL tomorrow, a Flyquest G2 series might look a little bit different, you know? Might look a little bit intriguing. Because what we saw in the first 3 BO5s wasn't exciting enough. This actually gives them some breathing room. Because I do think Labrov showed, like Caps showed moments where he was really good, I think, in this series. I think that Labrov probably had his best games all year long. I think these are some of the best Labrov games. Which brings me to the next series, AL versus Fly. Let's break it down. So I already predicted AL to win 3-0. I think 3-1 is possible too. Someone just said the final thing. Why would you say that? They could have won game 4. They got away with 1 HP many times. There's a G2 for Genji. Yeah, but what do you mean? Winning the series never looked plausible in this one. Like, you need to understand the distinction of being in a close game position. Being 50-50 with Genji is not being 50-50. Like, I didn't feel that entire game 4, there was never a point where G2 was in control. You need to be like, you need to be very, very like honest about it. Because the psychology of Genji also changes depending on what the game state is or where they are at. So I don't think there was ever a point in time where G2 could even imagine winning this series. Let's focus on... Thank you, that great overlord. I appreciate that. AO versus Fly. Let's break it down. Let's break it down, guys. AO versus Fly. Let's break it down. AO versus Fly. Let's break it down. I think it all depends on how they hit the ground running. I think the only angle that you can entertain for anyone's legend to lose is if they are choking. I think Flyquest, they are insanely hyped for this tournament. Very, very hyped for this tournament. But I think they are hyped for reasons that they haven't shown. I'm the only analyst out there that is not buying this Flyquest hype. I think that Flyquest have the highest potential of the Western teams. That I agree with. I think Masu, I think Busio, I think this roster has a very, very high ceiling, but they didn't show it the whole year. I don't think they showed it the whole year. They didn't. They did not show this the whole year. And with that in mind, I don't want to take for granted that they will show it here today. I don't want to take that for granted. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think we're going to take for granted that this is the time where they're going to all just lock in. In the end, they lost first stand. I mean, they didn't get to first stand. They lost 100 Thieves. They dropped series in the regular split against worse teams too. The C9 series were insanely close, but at the same time, I don't think that's a knock on them necessarily, because I do think C9 is a really, really good team. I think C9 is a really, really good team. But Flyquest, I think Busio is inconsistent. I think Bwipo is inconsistent. What I agree with when it comes to Flyquest is that I think they have sequences that are insanely high level, and I think that Inspired is the best Western player currently. But I don't think, like, if I look at these series, I already said it, I think the highest upset chance is MKOI versus Bilibili. I don't think this is the highest upset chance. If AO is gonna choke and that's your argument, I can accept that. If you think AO is gonna choke and that's why Fly is gonna win, okay. Okay. If that's your angle, I get it. But pure gameplay wise, anyone's legend wash Flyquest. They washed them. You want to tell me, Kale, first international tournament, Shanks as well, they are the LPL #1 seed, whatever, okay. But let me tell you this. Let me tell you this, okay? Anyone's legend won the LPL. Okay? Top Esports, when they were shitting the bed at internationals outside of first stand, I'm talking about Worlds and MSI last year when Cream was going first time to these tournaments, they didn't win the LPL. Anyone's legend won 4 best of 5s to get here. They beat Billy, which is a giga fucking big feat in China, in front of a big fucking venue, which I think is very comparable. Anyone's Legend, they lost in winter because I didn't think they were good enough to do so, and they got there because Tabe carried them. To be fair, as a weekend version, you're missing the point completely, Anotro. It's not about the weekend point or whatever. It's about being there and performing. Being there and performing. That's the main thing. Anyone's Legend were in their finals with a lot of gravitas and performed. I think that's a great sign for an Anyone's Legend. You know? They went to finals, lost, got cooked by top esports, even though I think probably they could have been better, right? I think in spring, they rose to the occasion. I think Anyone's Legend have shown way better gameplay than Flyquest. And if you want to tell me Anyone's Legend can choke, okay. But Anyone's Legend, I think they come in here, and I think, my prediction is 3-0 Anyone's Legend. That's my prediction. I think Anyone's Legend have the best early game. I think they have the best early game because the jungle support synergy is absolutely crazy. I think also the Tarzan choker narrative is way overblown. He had a bad series against T1 who won Worlds. That's the narrative about him. Hope has gone to Worlds and lost to T1. At the T1 that went to finals against the RX. That should have won that Worlds too. He had a bad series against... On Weibo, he had a decent fucking Worlds. I think on Weibo he had a decent Worlds. I think in Griffin, he had a decent Worlds too. This whole choking narrative about Tarzan is so overblown. If you want to say that his team fell off in playoffs, fair. But his teams weren't that great in the LPL. Like, the best team he had was the one with Gala and Hang and Zika. But at least if you want to go so far to call somebody a choker, you gotta bring a history of receipts, man. You gotta really, really bring it to the table. Because when I call Labrov a choker, I'm bringing up best of 5 after best of 5 after best of 5 after best of 5. Because even today, Labrov probably performed this good because no one expected G2 to do shit to Genji. Nobody expected G2 to do shit. Nothing. Choker equals Doran and Chovy? Ain't no way. It's the same with Doran, you know? Doran plays inconsistent, you know, throughout the year. He has high highs, low lows, and then he gets clapped by Bin or Zeus at an international. He gets clapped by Bin, and then it's like, he's joking. No, he's getting fucking clapped by one of the best top laners ever to play the game. People just expect a player to do something he never did, and then call him a choker. Chovy, the same thing. It's like, if you want to call out his 2022, like his 2023 MSI, fair play. 2022 Worlds, I think he was very fucking passive. Very boring. 2021 HLE, he was a fucking god, bro. 2023, 2024, he definitely wasn't the problem. 2024, he could have been the solution if he had the balls to slam Silas and Galio, but there's nuance to the conversation. There's nuance. Like MSI 2023, he sucked donkey balls because the meta was Annie, Lissandra, fucking Nautilus. You remember this shit? Yagao was fucking smoking cigs and smoking fucking cigarettes. The brand name was like Chovy, you know? But I think Anyone's Legend, I think everything they've shown gameplay-wise is that they're better than Fly. But it is interesting. Because usually, a number one seed out of LPL is usually the usual suspects. It's the Rulers, it's Knight, it's the usual guys. This is very unique. This is a very unique circumstance. Very unique circumstance. Flyquest have more experience than AL in grand total. You know? Inspired, Whippo, like how many internationals have they been to? Endless amount. I think Anyone's Legends got a 3-0 tomorrow. And I think that's the end of the breakdown, boys. That's the end of the breakdown.